Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legacies, a great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we have Hope having that dream at the beginning that was obviously, for her, more like a vision where she runs into Landon, and obviously she talks to, Alaric about what her dream was. And obviously, it's like, oh, it was a sign and maybe I need to go find Landon now. But Alaric's like, okay, yes, I agree. It's kind of sucky that MG hid it from you. But at the same time, I understand why he did it too, because that is filled with a whole bunch of monsters. This is the key to getting towards Malivore, and it's super dangerous. But obviously, it's like, we also need to make sure Landon's actually alive before we go taking this jump. We can't just go by your gut feeling, because this could put so many people in danger. And it's like, fine, I'm going to go off and find your damn proof. Which involves her joining up with Lizzie, and then there's also Josie showing up, being like, "Well, I heard you guys are about to cast magic." So like, wait, she's like, no. You wanted to live the Muggle life, you're going to. So I'm gonna keep you away from this, because for Lizzie, it's like, yeah, I'm going to keep my sisters far away from all this magic-y stuff, especially like dark magic. Considering the fact is, she kind of went dark side Josie last time, so it's kind of like best keep her away from all this. Let's just keep this between us. At the same time, MG's kind of struggling because pretty much everyone's turned against him, which is so sad because like MG is literally, he was like the in-between for every group. Vampires, werewolves, witches. Like because he was the dude that everyone turned to because MG's the most reliable. And now literally everyone that's left at the school turned on him because it's like, oh, what you did, kind of a dick move. Which even Jed's like, yo, I appreciate you taking the heat off of me. Like your dickish move outclasses mine, so it makes me a little bit better in the standings of everyone around, and everyone else's standings around the school. But it's like, I can't be seen with you because ruin my reputation again. And even Caleb, at the end of the day, isn't on his side too either. And it's like, and Caleb, interestingly enough, is in this compromised position because he's holding himself both to what MG had said, like, don't give up on Landon, which is ironic considering like he had the one piece of thing that could lead to Landon. He didn't know that Landon was in the prison world, but still it is a situation of like, you've still been holding on to this, and it's just like Caleb's in this position of not knowing what to do. Like if he chooses MG's side, that means he's kind of co-signing everything MG did, but if he chooses to go against, it means he's all for like this crazy plan to save Landon, and it's him turning his back on MG. And for him, it's like, MG's supposed to be my homie, and it's like, I promise to always have his back, because what did he tell MG when MG found out he was a Ripper? It's like, you and me are family, that no matter what ends up happening, I got your back. Because MG, obviously his mom and his dad, their situation, so it's like, I'll be your family. So Caleb's not, so as he says, he's playing Switzerland in this situation. Which obviously you have Cleo trying to kind of mediate a little bit of that too, helping, in her own way. She's like, I might not be, part of Team Super Squad, but, she's going to help in her own right, which involved her ultimately summoning Charon, the ferryman, to the underworld. At the same time, you have Hope and Lizzie, doing their thing, and they go inside the prison world, and it's like, okay, what's different and what's not? And then you see that there's the note, and they ultimately find it. And me being the idiot I am, I was like, why are they bending down to look at it? I was like, why aren't they touching it? Then I'm like, right, astral projecting, because they're not actually there, you idiot. So they actually can't touch it. I was like, right, I felt so stupid for kind of forgetting that immediately. But now they know Landon's alive. It's like, okay, Super Squad together, we're formulating a plan. NG shows up, but it's like he was not told on purpose. So now it comes to conversation of what's going down. Like, obviously, Hope's got a plan of, like, we need to jump in here immediately and do it. But it's like, who's along with me? And no one else is, because it means going into the Lion's Pit with not only Malivore, but every one of its monsters running around. But then you also MG putting in his point of view of, like, why he did what he did. It's like, fine, let me explain why I did what I did. Because I would never do anything to hurt you guys or Landon. And you know that. Like, I've always had I've always been there. Like, I've always had you guys' backs. Even Jed. It's because I've seen firsthand when me and Lizzie went there, like what that world had become with all those monsters running around. That was too much. That was too dangerous for anyone to open the portal. So for him, it's like, And he even brings up, I think he had used the example specifically talking to Alaric. It's like so many students left this school because they didn't want, their parents pulled them out because of the whole like fighting monsters thing. So I can't remember. Wait, I can't remember if that was him or Lizzie that brings up that point. I think it was MG who did. But either way, the point was brought up like so many kids, parents bailed out of this, pulled their students out of this school so they wouldn't have to be in a position where they had to fight monsters. Now that I think about it, I believe it was Lizzie that brings this up later on. But it still kind of flows with, MG's point of like, if we're going to do this, I'm not saying we forget and abandon Landon, because obviously for Hope, it's like if it was you there or anyone else, Landon would say like, nah, let's go ahead, let's do this. But MG's like, I'm not saying let's not do this. I'm just saying let's be smart about this. It's like, because MG's like, because obviously they've got this celestial thing going on, meaning that this is the only time to do this, because if they don't do it now, they've got to wait an entire month, so that's the kind of give and take with the situation. We're like, okay, so what do we do about this? And MG's like, if you side with me, we'll find a better way. We'll find another way. No one has his back. Even Lizzie. And at that moment, MG's just like, fine, you're right, Dr. Saltzman. I shouldn't be here. And kind of leaves. But when the time comes, Caleb shows up, obviously still trying to play Switzerland. Hope is like counting on everyone, because obviously Wade is like, yeah, me and Gabby, we need a GM and he's the best one. So yeah, we're Team Hope. And Jed's like, yeah, no, I'm down for this, because hopefully this can lead to me getting rid of this Scarlet A that the witches keep putting on me. So it's like, okay. And when it comes down to Lizzie actually bows out and she chooses MG's side. And it's like, this is too dangerous. Hope will find another way. But she's like, I need a Gemini witch. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Which the moment she said that, you're like, oh, she's going to cross the line and go to Josie, and lo and behold, she does. This is actually something I commented on, and this is a big theme in the episode in itself, and that is, I commented on, like, someone didn't like the fact is that Hope, they feel like this whole thing is going to be about Hope saving Landon. To me, I think that is furthering Hope's story, because for one, it's supposed to be drawing parallels to her and her dad, which obviously she does later on, but it's like, Klaus, she's very much like Klaus. Klaus could be super obsessive and do any, like, damn the consequences, I'll do what I want, no matter what it is. Whether it was about protecting his family, whether it's for his family or his daughter, or just for the fact is he wanted power and just, he wants something, he'll go for it. He will always fixate and, become obsessive about things. And that's kind of both a positive and negative trait that Hope acquired from her dad. Even to the point, let's not forget, like, how, we've seen it in this show, but we even saw it in the originals, how far Hope is willing to go in many different regards just to get what she wants. Let's not forget what set a lot of stuff in the final season in motion was her making a desperate move just to get her dad back in her life, so that's something to kind of be considered with all of this as well. So I think that's but I think that's the interesting thing I think they were setting up about Hope was the fact is of how desperate she's willing to save Landon, even though she went through the box. The whole point of the box was for her to move on, to let Landon go, because becoming so fixated on saving him was going to be costing her the price of not being able to save everyone else. Because at the end of the day, everyone else is going to pay the price for her desperation to save Landon. And it kind of ends up playing out that way, but we'll kind of roll through things. Couldn't get Lizzie's help, so she goes to the next staying Josie, which complicates things because I'm sure Finch doesn't appreciate, we have, every time plans happen between them, something comes up because they're trying to decide their date and stuff like that, they're being cute, and she's like, tell me you're not into mini golf. It's like, well, I guess we're not compatible because you don't like the sport that I'm into. And it's like, well, the only thing we can agree on is we want to go on a date, but they can't figure out what. Having Hope show up and be like, yeah, I need your help. I'm sure it probably is like, wait, who's this random girl showing up needing your help and pulling you away? I think it's for Finch is also the thing of just every time they have plans, just something, it sadly just doesn't work out. But Hope kind of manipulates Josie into helping her. She even kind of be like, yeah, I could throw it in your face that technically you going dark side Josie kind of set all this in motion. It's like you did, but she's like, I'm not trying to focus on the negative. She's like, right now I'm just trying to focus on the good, and I just want to get Landon back. I love him so much. So, and also it's kind of convincing Josie, hey, you came back from the dark magic on your own. You just needed my help reminding you of who you are, because you were strong enough on your own to find your way back to the light, So she's like, I'm not worried. And even if you do kind of go dark side, Josie, I'll be here to kind of help rein you back. But you won't need my help because you'll be able to do it on your own because you being who you are is enough to pull you back from the darkness. So that's happening. I love the whole, like I said, Karen situation of like, and Rick being like, Cleo, next time you want to summon a monster, ask permission first. But also it's like he's singing to it because they have to find out a form of pavement and it's holding its head. And they're just like, oh, why is he singing to it? Caleb steps up to do the singing and it starts tapping his foot. It's like, I love the shenanigans of the show. And then all three of them join together and harmonizing and everything. It's like the reason why Alaric is doing this is because apparently it's based on a myth of how someone basically sung. It was their way of not having to, because you have to pay a specific price. Like I'm sure Karen's the one that determines the price of the ferry of like, what soul was getting across and everything. So luckily it seems like they were able to ultimately pay the price and everything worked out in that regard. They give him some stuff of Landon to kind of pinpoint him in the right direction. Obviously, there's the whole MG and Lizzie thing, which Lizzie ended up choosing MG's side, and even MG being like, "Whoa," she's like, "Yeah, I was there. Like, if you hadn't stormed away, you would have seen me sticking up for you." She was like, "It was pretty awesome," and it was like, "Yeah," because I think for MG he really appreciated it because like at the moment in time where like no one had his back, Lizzie had his back because he's always there for everyone else, but in this one moment, no one else was there for him. And but obviously there's the go back and forth between Lizzie and her dad about the whole situation. It's like, did you side with MG just because you believed in him? It's like, well, yeah, partially. And it's like, well, we all have blind spots with the people when it comes to the people we love, and that's a big factor in this episode that everyone has a lot of blind spots. Because that's also the thing, and I think that's a complicated thing about heroes and in certain regards, and especially amongst our heroes in the story, that when it comes to the people that they love and care about, when you are willing to go, how far is too far, And in Hope's case, it feels like nothing. There is no too far in this circumstance, and because of her creating this situation, she made a lot of people have to choose sides, drew a lot of lines in the sands, as she said, pissed a lot of people off. Because at the end of the day, once again, it's like Alaric was like, yeah, we're kind of our blind spots for the people we love. At the end of the day, Lizzie chooses Josie over MG because she found out Josie, like that Hope had gotten Josie involved. And, you had MG being like, man, I'm so glad that I really appreciate you having my back on this, which Lizzie's like, I'm so sorry, but the only reason why I'm doing this is because of Josie, and she ends up siphoning the magic off him and kind of decaying him a little bit. And obviously she shows up, tells Josie, turns the coin invisible, tosses it, and it's like, you stay out of this, I'm here. And Hope's like, fine, if you want to fight, we'll fight. He's like, no, I got the ascendant, so let's do this, so... And when it's all said and done, they're beginning to cast a spell, but then the dark magic starts flowing through. And obviously, and I thought it was interesting, like, it's like, well, the one who opened the portal was the necromancer, and being in there, like, the place is radiating with dark magic like he was, because that's what he went into that world like that, so it's radiating with it, and now it's poisoning them. And obviously Lizzie couldn't let go because of the situation, and Hope should have been the one that ended it, but she couldn't. And so Josie comes in and starts absorbing, and obviously this is what Lizzie wanted to avoid, and she's looking at Hope, and Hope's like, I'm so sorry. Even in this moment, like who knows, maybe at this point even Hope couldn't stop it, but it's still the thing of she set everything in motion in this regard. It's like, you were not to get my sister involved. We made this whole promise and everything, but you so desperate to say, because obviously Josie understands. It's like she loves Landon, so it's understandable why she's doing what she's doing. But for Josie, she's like, I love you too, and she's like, you essentially, Lizzie was like, you better. Luckily, before things went too sideways, Landon shows up. We don't know how he dealt with the Ascendant. I guess he just came by and just smashed it. Whatever the case may be, he broke it. And it's like, yeah, it's all hunky-dory. Yeah, he's back. Oh, everything works out. This is so great. And the moment that happened, I was like, oh, that's sweet. But you kind of literally screwed everything up in more ways than one. One, Lizzie, who's, they had their complicated relationship in the past, but they were on really good terms. Like, Lizzie's always kind of been there for Hope, but in this particular instance, she's not, because on two fronts. One, you dragged my sister into this. You almost got dark magic mixed up. Like, you could have, I literally expressly told you not to get her involved, and you got her involved, almost got her sucked up into this whole dark magic thing. Like, regardless, it's like you would have sent her spiraling again, because if this happened again, Josie would never forgive herself. So there's that angle to it. You maybe betrayed MG because she hasn't outright said it yet, but her dad kind of said it, and I think it kind of hit when he said it. But it's like, she loves MG. Like, they've always had a connection. Like, you know, he's always been there for her. She wanted to be there for him, and it's like the only reason why she would betray him is for Josie's sake. And then you hear MG say the thing of like, this isn't my home anymore. Like, the fact of the matter is, most people didn't listen to me, but when it came to like life and death situations, when it came to protecting people, you guys would listen. So that'd make it all worthwhile. But now, like, even in moments like this, when life is, you know, being threatened, when it's for everyone's sake, no one's listening to me anymore. So what's the point of me staying around? I'm not going to stay around long enough to watch any of you guys, my friends and the people I love, get hurt, you know? Because I think that's the saddest thing. In the moment when MG was alone, he thought he had at least one person on his side, that being Lizzie. And at the end of the day, it's like she ended up using and manipulating. Granted, she had her own reasons. Once again, Hope created this situation by, you know, getting Josie involved. But it's still a thing of like, he feels like he has no one. You know, because, and even Caleb saying at the, you know, talking to Chloe, it's like, I said Chloe, Cleo. For him, it was a situation of, he got on MG's case about his actions having consequences, but he's also like, my inactions have consequences as well. So no more playing Switzerland. But his inactions this episode played I mean, who knows? Like, and even Alaric was like, there is no right or wrong in this situation, technically speaking. I mean, they all want the right end result, but it is all just like, it's a situation of like, I said there's no right and wrong, but there kind of was a right and wrong. But it was just like, they weren't together as a team on this, you know. And I think the Super Squad is going to be broken up because of this. Like, no one's going to, the heat that MG was getting in this episode is probably going to flow over to Hope in many different regards, because Lizzie's going to be pissed, once again, not just about the MG thing, but also the Josie thing. And just on a personal level, she said, like, I'm never going to help her again. So their relationship has been in a good place for a while now, because obviously they got closer, a little closer to season 1, but definitely got closer over the course of season 2. Now all that hard work's probably going down the drain to a certain extent. All right, and that's a Michelson thing in itself, like gaining forgiveness for those who you've screwed over. That's the Michelson specialty, trying to like make amends. That's always an uphill battle, and I think it's going to be definitely one in this particular case. Yeah, she got Landon back, but at what cost? Because other people had to pay the price. Lizzie had to pay the price in more ways than one, because this just reconfirmed for Josie, I need to stay away from this place, like away from magic, away from monsters, away from drama. And it's like, oh, you have a friend I can live with, right? And I talked to Mom about it. And it's like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to be a little sad, sure, but I'm telling all my students to kind of do, you know, what's best for them. Like, how can I not give that same advice to my daughter? Tell her that it's okay just to live her life the way she wants to. So there's things on that front. Once again, like I said, what the future of the Super Squad's going to look like. Cleo's obviously a member of it now, but kind of sadly at the wrong point in time. Obviously, there's a conversation. I immediately was thinking like, well, we saw that creature in in the prison world looking at the note as well. So I'm like, okay, side note, I don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's a berserker. And the only reason why I say that is because it looks kind of similar to how the berserkers looked in Teen Wolf. That's the only reason why I'm saying that. But regardless, tangents and all, I thought that maybe it manifested or transformed itself into Landon, but it had enough of Landon's memories, except what I thought was interesting, that he was like, she's like, where was it? He's like, yeah, I found myself in darkness. So that means his entire run-in with the Necromancer, either he doesn't remember it or he's lying to Hope because he doesn't want Hope to know he went a little dark side himself. Like, it could just be legitimately he doesn't remember that in-between space because the moment he left Malivore, probably maybe it wiped all his memories the moment he escaped from it. Maybe that's kind of how that worked. I mean, typically it wipes everyone else's memories of you, doesn't typically mess with your memories. So I don't know. That was kind of interesting. I think there might be an element of like, oh, he's lying because he doesn't want her to know he went kind of full dark side. But obviously it's like Cleo is the reason why things kind of worked out. So Hope is like, well, we did fight because I was kind of pissed at her because she killed the leprechaun last episode, and that might have been my only means of getting to you. But now Cleo kind of made up for it this episode. But she's like, I'll probably be staying with you for a while, Landon, just till things kind of cool down. Because once again, pissed off a lot of people. But obviously it is a thing. They're never going to have to worry about being separated again. It's like Landon's like, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to stick together. And it's like, and this is something else I had commented on. When it's all said and done, like, not only will there be other people around you paying the price, but who's to say things between her and Landon will be the same? Because she had talked about, like, I know what it's like being inside of Malivore, that darkness. It's actually interesting. I don't know if this is the parallels they were drawing, because remember, she ran into Clark inside of Malivore, so she wasn't completely alone for a while. But there's also the element of like, right, he wasn't either because he ran into the Necromancer. So there's a little bit of a parallel there. But I think I'm curious to see whether or not Landon's changed or if he's different because of all of this. We'll ultimately have to wait and see. But also, like I said, at the end, we also see that the Berserker found its way out. I guess it read the note and knew Landon was going to be its way to hitch a ride. So either just when Karen pulled him out, it latched on I don't know how. Maybe Karen opened the doorway and in that moment it jumped in after Landon did. We don't know. Maybe it involves because we saw it turn into goo. So in that moment, its manifestation of a fairy was probably in the form of a Malivore pit. So, which was also another thing to consider too. Like, monsters have already been escaping anyway, hence the leprechaun. So there's still a portal somewhere they gotta close to figure out like where that is and how the leprechaun got out and everything. So a lot of really, really interesting things. I'm really curious to ultimately see where all of this takes us, because like this ain't some drama that's going to be dealt with over an episode. It's like, nah, like this is going to be some deep-seated stuff that's going to take probably quite a bit of time of healing. Like it's probably going to be a bigger story arc of just kind of like, yeah, once again, like you're desperate need to save Landon. I get it, you love him, but you cause so much damage in the process. And I'm curious, is Landon going to demonize her for? Probably not, because he did what he needed to. I mean, both of them did what they felt was needed to get back to each other. So it's going to be interesting, because it's like it might be a thing of kind of like the universe is trying to keep you apart, and your will and need to kind of fight the universe to get back comes with some collateral damage. So we'll see, the continued fallout of this going forward. Like I said, what this monster is, what its plans are now that it's in this world. It's going to, like I said, be interesting to see where ultimately all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.